Hey everybody, it's Ben Turner, USSOCOM military chaplain, reporting to you about UAP's unidentified, aerial phenomena. And yeah, I mentioned I wanted to give you some updated information because there are just with the volume of information I've been relaying has yielded a number of errors that are just sort of typical errors that you'd encounter. Because the production values here are pretty low for the moment, since this is preliminary information that I'm sorting through in advance of attempting to secure funding to file a formal report. There are some points of clarification, so I'm going to just assume that you've seen parts 1 through 4, and this is actually part 5. But I'm going to begin by talking to you a little bit about David Adair's career. I think that it's easy to get confused between what David Adair, who is the rocket scientist, basically, who was a child prodigy and worked at Area 51 because he was recruited by the military to do so when he was 17 years old, and saw a recovered engine that was extraterrestrial in origin. In my previous videos I say foreign quite often, and really what I mean by foreign on most occasions is extraterrestrial. It's just shorthand for extraterrestrial, but I need to be careful because there's a difference between foreign technology, overseas technology like Soviet technology, and hybrid technology, which is the theory that science or something mechanical, technology rather, can be a combination of human inspiration and extraterrestrial wherewithal. So that's hybrid technology. Elsewhere, I relay my opinion that some of the military crafts have hybrid components. I say that about the SR-71. I've read that about the Aurora as well, recently declassified, and will have to, not declassified, recently subject to a classification change, and we will look that up during this session. But David Adair, correct, worked on an extraterrestrial engine. He was 17 years old in Nevada at Area 51, which is by Groom Lake, where I mentioned. You want to make the distinction between David Adair's skills set and the technology evident from the extraterrestrial objects we're discussing. I believe that when they say fusion containment engine, that's actually what David Adair designed. What he excelled at was the fusion containment engine. But in my previous video, I give more detailed information about the technology relating to the extraterrestrial engine that was recovered. And if I didn't say it in the other video, Bob Lazar states that the craft that he examined that was extraterrestrial, entirely extraterrestrial. I didn't want to confuse you. I said they were trying to retrofit one. In my memory and recollection of the story, I recall that there was a craft that was extraterrestrial that they were trying to retrofit. But I also heard stories of, the scientists down at Area 51, the military, or Boeing, whatever company was footing the bill for it, of them developing flying saucer technology based upon recovered flying saucers and parts and so forth. So that's out there as well. And it was, I think, Bob Lazar who actually saw them flying a recovered craft. Right, so there's overseas technology, non-American technology, where possibly you buy patents and so forth from your allies or enemies, depending upon where you are at any given war and so forth, and develop advanced technology with Japanese systems or what have you. So that's overseas also / foreign, but in addition to foreign, there's extraterrestrial. So really three categories. Something is either overseas, American, or from outer space. The TR-3B is the black manta. Oh, I say in the video, the prior sessions, that it absolutely doesn't exist. What I mean to say is that it's not, clearly if I say that I encountered one, I believe that it exists. But what I mean to say is that it's not acknowledged to be any sort of American governmental project. If it is an actual project, it's entirely black ops. So when I say the black manta absolutely doesn't exist, it's that there's no record of it. No one would ever admit to it. It's not known to have been built by any manufacturer. It's not funded. So, and I think that they treated the Aurora like that for a while as well. And I suspect that the Aurora that project is more classified. It might be that it's unpublished, unclassified. I'm not sure, but I believe ATIP was that way. It was unclassified, but it was also unpublished. So it was taking place. Advanced Aerospace Technical Identification Program ended in the early part of, I think it ended around 2007. I'm not sure, or 2000. I have no idea. I'd have to take another look at it. It could have gone as far as 2012, but it's been over for 10 years. Aurora, I need the stats. Anti-gravitation, right? That's not something that we pull off on the planet yet. There's no such thing as anti-gravity. It's theoretical. So, anti-gravity spacecraft, by definition, means extraterrestrial. But I believe that I'll have to check. The TR-3B, I think, in my recovering of the information, it might use anti-gravity. I'll have to check. I know that there's a layer of plasma surrounding it that is generated, that has to do with mercury, the element of mercury mixing with some sort of nuclear process, nuclear micro-detonation process. I'm not really sure. I don't understand it fully, but I did relay some of that information. My extra commentary about the TR-3B is possibly some of that mercury, nuclearized mercury, assists the cloaking of the vehicle. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's a dual process or if it's the same plasma. I have no idea. Travis Walton. Oh, yeah, another confusing statement. I wanted to get this out there before I go too much further into discussing Travis. Travis Walton. Right, I said, after I sort of made a litany of complaints about what aliens do to people on the planet, I said out of context, it wasn't clear, I stated, so I put a major bookmark on people going around thinking it's okay to talk about aliens. I don't even know what that means, because I don't believe in silencing people who need to talk about their experience with extraterrestrials, and I don't need to silence that conversation. I think what I meant to say, and I can't really speak for Travis beyond the fact that I think Travis doesn't want to be interfered with, and I don't think he wants a recurrence of those events. At least I hope he doesn't. It's been a long time since I've read his recounting, but part of what was alarming to me about it when I looked at components of it again was the fact that people had been involved too. So it was aliens when he got there. It was aliens and, I don't know, military personnel, or I'm not sure who they were at all. And I don't know if Travis knows either. But they were allegedly there too, which this is really unnerving to me. So not going around talking about aliens, that was not a complete thought. What I meant to say was, I put a major bookmark on the notion of alien visitation being a welcome occurrence. I can't say when I hear the Betty and Barney Hill recounting and I hear Travis's story, I can't say that it's a great thing that they're here and how wonderful and interesting it's here. It's exciting to see things that you don't understand, and but they really are some security as well. I think second guessing extraterrestrial, I was going to say foreign, but second guessing extraterrestrial intelligence is a losing proposition. I think you need to know when planning projects and so forth exactly what's going on with all of this. So, what would I call it? Nakoma? The Pyramid Range, which is in South Dakota. Is that the name of it? I think the name of the town is Nakoma. And it's the whatever testing range. And the missiles are aimed, I think, defensively at Detroit, Cleveland, and Boise, because there are siloed locations there. I haven't corroborated on the internet. I'm just assuming that when they speak in terms of that pyramid arrangement, which is really a missile silo, $6 billion to build, and then it was closed in under 24 hours. And it really had to do with the timing. I was reading extra information. The timing of Truman settling something to do with whatever that was. Was it the SALT Treaty? When was that? Was that the 80s? Well, so this is earlier than that. But he hit some stride with during the Cold War, where he was able to make progress with, I think it was Brezhnev, and so no more need, because they said you have to limit the number of locations. That was part of the treaty that they signed, and I think that it was closed in conjunction with that. Whether there was something tricky going on with the timing behind the scenes, I couldn't tell you that. So Travis Walton, yeah, I don't want to put words in his mouth, and yeah, please understand, it's not whether or not people discuss aliens that is troubling, it's whether or not aliens should be welcomed. And that Nakoma, it's called a safeguard complex, and that's important to know, I think, for classification purposes. And it is North Dakota, and it's Nakoma, and you can look it up in Atlas Obscura. It's a massive complex of missile silos. More pics? Let's see. There are pictures on the Library of Congress website. If I click off, I really have to have... Oh, here's another one of it. That gets a save. This is a color photograph. I've never seen this. It's fenced. Can you guys hear that? Oh wow, there are people in front of it this time. There's like a family walking in front of it. It's pretty. It's something to look at. It's just sort of monolithic, and they call it the Safeguard Missile Site. It's a safeguard site. Some other weird structures in the winter. It's funny, the configuration of whatever the silos or the outbuildings that are the additional structures beyond the pyramid, those are also large, and they look like apartment complexes, but they're obviously not. They're not obviously not residential, but when you look at it from afar, it looks like two sections out of a city skyline. It looks like city skyline, but then you look closely, and they're not residential buildings. They're missile containment systems of some kind, probably, or markers of some kind. I have no idea. Um, People can't. I don't have the right light. Let me see. This is all encrypted, basically. I can't read this anymore. Okay, we covered Travis. We covered the Safeguard Complex. I want to look up the Aurora. Okay, and I explained the TR3B. It's not speculative if there are witnesses to it, but it's not a known Earth craft designed by Earthlings. So here we go. The Aurora is the one that looks like the triangle. Yeah, it has fins, but it has two lateral horizontal fins, but it is shaped like a triangle, and was a rumored mid-1980s American reconnaissance aircraft. Listen to this. This is Wikipedia. This is current. There is no substantial evidence that it was ever built or flown, and it has been termed let's go. It has been termed a myth. The U.S. has denied that it was ever built. Former Skunkworks director Ben Rich confirmed that Aurora was simply a myth in Skunkworks, a book detailing his days as the director. Rich wrote that a colonel working in the Pentagon arbitrarily assigned the name Aurora to the funding for the B-2 bomber design competition, and somehow the name was leaked to the media. Who knows? Maybe the Aurora is the TR-3B. In 2006, veteran Black Project watcher and aviation writer Bill Sweetman said, "Does Aurora exist? Years of pursuit have led me to believe that yes, Aurora is most likely in active development, spurred on by recent advances that have allowed technology to catch up with the ambition that launched the program a generation ago." In the 1994, listen to this, in the 1994 book Skunkworks, Ben Rich, the former head of Lockheed's Skunkworks division, wrote, it's called Skunkworks because it smells like, you can smell the sulfur from the metalworking. Wrote that the Aurora was the budgetary code name for the stealth bomber fly-off that resulted in the B-2 Spirit, so top secret spy plane. So Aurora as really a name for the B-2 Spirit, but the budgetary code name. So interesting that the Aurora is not the name of the craft to which we refer as the Aurora. It's really the budget behind whatever craft that happens in this configuration to be the B-2 Spirit. By the late 1980s, many aerospace industry observers believed, that the U.S. had the technological capability to build a Mach 5 hypersonic speed replacement for the aging Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird. And so this is all Wikipedia. British sighting claims. Chris Gibson in the North Sea on the jack-up barge GSF Galveston Key, and another witness saw an unfamiliar isosceles triangle-shaped Delta aircraft, apparently refueling from a Boeing KC-135 Stratotanker and accompanied by a pair of F-111 fighter bombers. Gibson and his girlfriend watched the aircraft for several minutes until they went out of sight. He subsequently drew a sketch of the formation. When the sighting was made public in '92, the British Defense Secretary Tom King was told, "There is no knowledge in the MOD of a black program of this nature, although it would not surprise the relevant desk officers in the air staff and defense intelligence staff if it did exist." Yeah, that's worth a clip too. Artists' rendering of the aurora from various angles. In February 1994, a former resident of Rachel, Nevada, okay, Rachel is where the little alien is located in Rachel, and that's really the last town before you get to Area 51. But an Area 51 enthusiast, Chuck Clark, claimed to have filmed the aurora taking off from the Groom Lake facility. In the David Darlington book, Area 51, The Dreamland Chronicles, he said, "I even saw the aurora take off one night, or an aircraft that matched the aurora's reputed configuration, a sharp delta with twin tails about 130 feet long. It taxied out of a lighted hangar at 2:30 a.m. and used a lot of runway to take off. It had one red light on top, but the minute the wheels left the runway, the light went off, and that was the last I saw of it. I didn't hear it because the wind was blowing from behind me toward the base." I asked when this had taken place. February 1994. Obviously, they didn't think anybody was out there. It was 30 below zero, probably 90 below with a wind chill factor. I had hiked into White Sides from a different, harder way than usual and stayed there 2 or 3 days among the rocks under a camouflage tarp with 6 layers of clothes on. I had an insulated face mask and 2 sleeping bags so I didn't present a heat signature. I videotaped the aircraft through a telescope with a 500mm f4 lens coupled via a C-ring to a high 8 digital video camera with 520 scan lines of resolution, which is better than TV. The author then asked, "Where's the tape?" "Locked away. That's a legitimate spy plane. My purpose is not to give away legitimate national defense. When they get ready to unveil it, I'll probably release the tape." Additional claims by 96 reports associated with the Aurora name dropped off in frequency, suggesting to people who believed that the aircraft existed that it had only ever been a prototype or that it had had a short service life. The Lockheed Martin SR-72, colloquially, listen to this, the Lockheed Martin SR-72, colloquially referred to as Son of Blackbird, is an American hypersonic UAV concept intended for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, ISR, proposed privately in 2013 by Lockheed Martin as a successor to the retired Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird. And there's a topic page on it. Awesome. I'm going to unwrap this a little bit later because I just started talking about the SR-72 before knowing that it existed, or before knowing that this had been released. I had never seen anything in print about the SR-72 at all. And I had not heard about this project either, so this is a first. And there's quite a bit of information here. High in the stratosphere, hypersonic strategic reconnaissance UAV, Lockheed. SR-71 was retired by the U.S. Air Force in 1998. Oh, and I wanted to tell you guys, too, the SR-71 is mentioned at the beginning of Close Encounters of the Third Kind when I was telling you the other day about the Steven Spielberg movie. Close Encounter of the Third Kind, depending upon the source, means you have made contact with actual aliens, or the actual craft itself, or possibly that you've actually seen aliens through who, while they were flying on the craft, or seen aliens through the window. I'm not sure, but it generally means the closest. There might be fourth, fifth, and sixth kind, I'm not sure. Probably there are, but it's J. Allen Hynek, and as I stated, Spielberg paid him $1,000 to use third kind in the title of the movie when it came out in the 70s. And but there's that well-known scene, which I think is one of the I think is a very clever scene, where the air traffic control people are receiving sudden reports from people. They're doing their typical control at either the military station or the commercial airport. I'm not sure, but you hear just sort of a rumbling in the background that the pilots aren't really sure what's going on, and they phone it in, and then they start saying, "Well, do you see that?" to the guy in the next plane, and they're passing coordinates back and forth, and it's very Air Forcey. And one of the guys said, "Could it be like a stray?" Well, it would have been too high to be a helicopter, but could it be a stray, whatever it was? And then the other guy said, "Could it be an SR-71?" You hear that in the background too. So that is a reference to the Blackbird, which at that point was cutting-edge spycraft. So entirely well-positioned within that film, but I didn't make the connection. And with all the times that I've seen that film scores of times, I never quite heard SR-71, and the last time I saw it, that's what one of the air traffic control guys suggested it might be to his co-controller while they're in the background trying to figure out what to do, because this light is moving like this in the sky in front of the pilots, and it's dodging, it's playing cat and mouse with the aircraft. Okay, so to attain its design speeds, Lockheed Martin has been collaborating with Aerojet Rocketdyne since 2006 on an appropriate engine. The company is developing the system from the scramjet-powered HTV-3X, which was canceled in 2008. The SR-72 is envisioned with an air-breathing hypersonic propulsion system that has the ability to accelerate from standstill to Mach 6 using the same engine, making it about twice as fast as the SR-71. The challenge is to design an engine to encompass the flight regimes of subsonic, supersonic, and hypersonic speeds. Using turbine compression, turbojet engines can work at zero speed and usually perform best up to Mach 2.2. Ramjets using aerodynamic compression with subsonic combustion perform poorly under Mach 0.5 and are most efficient around Mach 3, being able to go up to around Mach 6. The SR-71 specially designed engines converted to low-speed ramjets by redirecting the airflow around the core and into the afterburner for greater speeds than Mach 2.5. Finally, scramjets with supersonic combustion cover the range of high supersonic to hypersonic speeds. The SR-72 is to use a turbine-based combined cycle (TBCC) system to use a turbine engine at low speeds and a scramjet engine at high speeds. The turbine and ramjet engines share common inlet and nozzle, but with separate airflow paths. At speeds of Mach 5 and above, aerodynamic heating creates temperatures hot enough to melt conventional metallic airframes, so engineers are considering composites such as high-performance carbon, ceramic, and metal fixes for fabrication of critical components. Such composites have been used in intercontinental ballistic missiles and the retired space shuttle. As of May 2015, the SR-72 was envisioned as an ISR and strike platform, but no payloads were specified, likely because current payloads would be insufficient on an aircraft flying at Mach 6 up to 80,000 feet high, requiring hundreds of miles to turn. New sensors and weapons would likely have to be created specifically to operate at such speeds. In November 2013, construction of an optionally piloted scaled demonstrator was planned to start in 2018. The demonstrator was to be about 60 feet, 18 meters long, about the size of a Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor, and powered by one full-scale engine to fly for several minutes at Mach 6. SR-72 flight testing was planned to follow the timeline for the hypersonic high-speed strike weapon. The SR-72 is to be similar in size to the SR-71 at over 100 feet or 30 meters long and have the same range with entry into service by 2030. Following the U.S. Air Force's hypersonic roadmap for developing a hypersonic strike weapon by 2020 and a penetrating ISR aircraft by 2030, at the time of the concept's unveiling, Lockheed Martin had engaged in talks with government officials but has not secured funding for the demonstrator or engine. There's a reference in a bit to an RQ-180, which is an American stealth unmanned aerial vehicle, UAV, unmanned aerial vehicle. The Northrop Grumman RQ-180 is an American stealth unmanned aerial vehicle surveillance aircraft intended for contested airspace. As of 2019, there had been no images or statements released, but growing evidence points to the existence of the RQ-180. Okay, there's a bunch about Aerojet Rocketdyne NASA contracts in 2014. They announced at some point that it would be in development, allegedly, according to this recounting. Right, it'll be capable of firing hypersonic missiles. Okay, it just goes on for a bit here. But that's what it says, Lockheed Martin SR-72, that's the subject header on Wikipedia. Okay. All right. Oh yeah, Betty and Barty Hill. I think I already explained that. Right. I say that she wasn't traumatized, but clearly she was when she had a pregnancy test, because it was and it says in the transcripts that she was too. It's that I don't know if they were tested separately, but from the reading, people who interpret it and try to make sense of it culturally, um, will say that they influence each other's testimony. There's cross-contamination, which is why it's sort of a shared fantasy and not something reflective of what occurred in material reality. That was some people's allegation. But at one point I state that they were taken into separate rooms because for the hypnosis component, routinely hypnotized separately to prevent cross-contamination. I don't believe that's the case at all. I don't think there's any sort of effort to independently verify. I don't think that's the case, like they do in some crime, early parts of discovery, legal discovery relating to crime and so on, trying to keep evidence. I don't think they did that because their point was to understand what had happened to them and to recover from the trauma of having experienced what they experienced. Oh, and there are the papers here. A guide to the papers, which is part of the library at University of New Hampshire. Well, it's there to be explored. They have a folder of correspondence, notebooks and journals, subject files, news clippings, publications. This is all from the administration, and then the library itself will list access restrictions, copyright notice, preferred citation. But so that's there to be explored. I'm not sure what else to cover. I think that I'm going to get this up there so that we can have the updated information, and then I'll do a longer video once I have more original research. Okay, thanks for listening. Again, this is Benjamin Turner, military chaplain and attorney, discussing UAPs. One thing I do want to recommend that people watch the congressional hearing on UAPs that occurred last month. This is June. This is in late May or early May, I'm not sure, but because they have new footage of UAP following a American military plane at hypersonic speed, and they released it in Congress. But you have to watch carefully to catch it. So I recommend that to you, and I can provide you links to that if you're interested. Thanks for listening. Peace, and until next time. If you want to reach me, you can reach me over social media, and my information is my contact information is publicly available on many social media websites, and just do the search Ben Turner Holy Orders. The church is Church Universal and Triumphant, and I'm a member of USSOCOM, United States Special Ops Command. Okay, thank you. Bye.